everybody, I'm Grace Green Pepper and we are gonna cook some food together today. On the newsletter we sent home, we offered a loaded veggie sauce recipe. So today we're gonna make a couple of different versions. So that way if you're not a big tomato sauce fan, you still have some other options. I love making veggie sauce because really you can mix and match with whatever you want, whatever you have in the fridge too. So for our tomato-based sauce today, we're gonna throw in some onions, some turnips, some garlic, and this kale that we actually harvested from our learning garden out at the farm today. So today we're actually making a huge batch of our pasta sauce party options because our friends, neighbors, and community partners, Craig and Ginny of the Taylor Boulevard Save-A-Lot, have reached out for help in the form of a hot cooked meal. So today that's where this food will end up. We're gonna use olive oil as our base so that nothing sticks to our pans. Give it a nice generous coat. And we're gonna start with our onions first because they take the longest to cook. But one tip, if you're using those rutabagas, they actually take a little bit longer than onions if you chop them to a similar size. So if you still want to start with your onions, just chop your rutabaga a little bit smaller. I'm gonna put one onion in each pan so we can wait to hear them sizzle. So on our back burner here, we're actually making some quinoa as a nice alternative to pasta. Quinoa is one of my favorite grains because it's actually a complete protein. So you don't have to add any meat, but you can still get all the protein your body needs through a meal that's kind of like pasta. So to cook quinoa, it's the 2-to-1 ratio. So that means if you're doing 1 cup of quinoa, you need 2 cups of liquid. Now you can make your liquid either water or vegetable or a chicken broth or stock to add a little bit more flavor. Today we're using water with plenty of salt and some other seasonings I will add in later. You want to add a little bit of olive oil and or butter just so that the quinoa doesn't stick to the pan as it's cooking. We got our first onion sizzling, so I'm gonna add about 1 full onion to each pan for each recipe. We're gonna start adding some garlic. We went ahead and prepped these by taking the skin off and cutting off the root end. We're gonna use this nice fancy garlic press today to add in a lot of that garlic flavor for our pasta sauces. If you don't have a garlic press at home, you could always just chop your garlic pretty fine. If you don't have fresh garlic, garlic powder is an awesome option as well. So our onions are looking really good. The cast iron skillet on the left here is cooking a little bit faster as that pan heated up, which is perfect because we're gonna make our tomato sauce in there. We're gonna add some turnips in next. We got those nicely chopped and prepared. As our onions cook for the olive oil and butter based sauce, I'm going to talk about what we're doing in this pan. We're going to add some carrots and sweet potatoes next. Also plenty of kale. We're going to give it a little Southwest kick with some black beans today as well. Alright, so in this second pan, that's the non-tomato sauce option, we're going to start adding our other ingredients. We're going to do some carrots, as well as some sweet potatoes. And I'm gonna add a little bit of butter in there just to make it a little bit creamier of a sauce. But if you wanted to skip that, you could stick with olive oil as your base. In our tomato sauce skillet, our veggies are looking really good. So I'm gonna go ahead and add a can of diced tomatoes with their juice still. You could use fresh tomatoes if you wanted. So those nice tomatoes come out of the can pretty juicy, so you want to let it cook down a little bit so you get a thicker sauce that way. So next we're going to add some black beans in with the sweet potatoes, carrots, and onion mixture. To prepare these black beans, we started with a bag of dried beans and we soaked them overnight. And then we boiled them for about a half an hour. Sometimes it'll take a little bit longer, especially if they get a little bit shorter of a soak. So you just want to keep an eye on them as you're boiling, and you know they're done when they're tender and kind of split apart. So I'm going to go ahead and add those black beans in. We're going to add some kale. We already ripped this up into a little bit smaller pieces. So we're going to put this in both pans, because the more kale the better. Also a really awesome source of protein. And while it looks like I'm adding a ton of kale, it actually breaks down so much while it's cooking that it won't look like this much here in a few minutes. Then we get to do the fun part. So we're gonna add some seasonings next. We're gonna add a little salt to both pans. We're gonna add a little oregano into our tomato sauce to make it pretty classic tasting. A little basil in there as well. If I ever cook black beans, I pretty much always add cumin, and we're gonna do the same thing again today and sprinkle in a little cumin with our black beans and sweet potatoes. Cumin is one of my favorite seasonings. I'm gonna be pretty generous with it. Big shout out to Rainbow Blossom as they help make this possible through their donations that arrive home with you all in those CSA shares, and for helping to make this recipe a lot more delicious today. Another big shout out to Ivor and crew at Field Day Family Farm, because they are also instrumental in making our club possible, along with those CSA shares and the veggies that arrive to your homes. Their ingredients are in here. These are their black beans today that we started with. So again, thanks to Field Day Family Farm and Ivor. I think we're gonna call this tomato sauce done. Everything's looking and smelling amazing. Turn that burner off. And now comes the delicious part. We get to try our different loaded veggie sauces over whatever base we choose. Today we're going with quinoa over here, but feel free to put your sauces over pasta, over rice, or whatever else you like. Top with a little cheese if you want, and enjoy. Happy cooking!